A gorilla in a quiet zoo refused to let go of an old backpack, and what they found inside linked her to a missing child. Officials claimed Koa was born in captivity, but a jungle photo, smuggled documents, and her haunting reaction told a different story. Everything changed when the child's mother recognized the bag and exposed a truth buried for nearly 2 decades. But just wait until you see how this heartbreaking mystery unraveled and why, in the end, justice finally caught up. When 6-year-old Kelly first noticed the gorilla dragging a backpack into the enclosure, she didn't scream or run to her father. She simply raised a sticky finger, pointed toward the massive creature, and said with casual awe, "Dad, look, she brought something." Her father, Jim Carter, now a headkeeper at Savannah Wildlife Reserve, turned toward the enclosure and stopped mid-stride. His clipboard slipped slightly in his hand. In nearly 2 decades working with primates, he had never seen this. There, lumbering through the dust and mulch, was Koa, the center's oldest female gorilla, towering and graceful, normally indifferent. Today, she moved with unshakable focus. In her arms, cradled like something fragile, was a battered, mud-caked backpack. Its straps trailed behind her. Leaves clung to its fabric. The zipper was half undone, but Koa held it tightly, as if protecting whatever was inside. She wasn't just dragging it, she was carrying it, like it meant something. Jim's heart quickened. Gorillas in captivity often played with objects, tires, boxes, even the occasional food crate. But this was different. There was no playfulness in her body language, no curiosity, only intent. He grabbed his radio. Security to the east side. Now, someone left a bag near loading. Who the heck dropped gear near the transfer gate? Already guests were gathering by the viewing glass. Phones appeared. Children pressed noses against the barrier. Koa didn't flinch. She made her way to the shaded corner of her habitat, her usual resting place, and slowly settled onto the earth, with the bag in her lap. And then, she waited. She didn't look at the trees. She didn't look at the sky. She looked at them, at the people, one by one, studying them, as if hoping to recognize someone. Jim moved closer to the glass, now joined by Dr. Sam Harris, the on-call vet. Her eyes narrowed. She's guarding it. You think someone laced it with scent? Food? Jim muttered. No, Sam said quietly. Look at her pupils. Dilated, elevated stress. That's not possession. That's protection. Koa didn't blink. Her fingers brushed slowly across the fabric. She seemed nervous, almost reverent. Then, with shocking gentleness, she moved a single finger to the zipper and opened the bag. The crowd leaned in. Koa reached inside, slowly, carefully, and pulled something out, a piece of pale pink fabric, tiny, folded. She held it with both hands and brought it to her chest. Even through the thick enclosure glass, Sam's voice caught in her throat. Is that pajamas? Jim's chest tightened. Not just any pajamas, child-sized, cotton, faded cartoon print, the kind a toddler might sleep in. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone was already recording. Another called for staff. Security began to form a perimeter. Koa stayed perfectly still. Then, out of nowhere, she let out a deep, low rumble. It started in her chest, grew louder, rougher, filled with something far more complex than warning. It wasn't aggression. It was grief. It was memory. And it made the entire zoo go silent. The backpack was confiscated within minutes. Koa refused to let it go. She clutched it to her chest with such force that when keepers approached, coaxing gently, then more urgently, she reacted with a strength they hadn't seen in years. She bared her teeth, lashed out, and screamed with a sound that echoed across the compound. She was trying to protect it. In the end, they had no choice but to sedate her. The tranquilizer took effect slowly. Koa fought it, eyes rolling, body swaying, but eventually collapsed in the shaded corner of her habitat. Even as she faded, her arm remained draped across the bag. Jim Carter stood outside the quarantine enclosure, staring through the mesh. The massive silverback he'd known for years, the one he'd trained, fed, studied, was curled up like a child in sleep, And for the first time in 22 years, he was afraid of what he saw on her face. Not aggression, not wildness, but memory. Inside the staff office, Dr. Sam Harris placed the contents of the backpack on the table one by one. "Children's items," she said quietly. "Pajamas, a soft toy, and this." She held up a photograph and slid it across the table. Jim didn't speak at first. He lowered himself into the nearest chair, every movement slow. The photo was faded at the edges, creased from time and handling. In the center, a little girl, no older than 4, with bright blonde hair and a pink jumpsuit. She was sitting in the grass, smiling, with one arm wrapped around something beside her. A gorilla, young, thin-framed, but unmistakably Koa. Same narrow eyes, same small scar above the left brow, a scar Jim himself had always believed was the result of a fall she took as a juvenile, inside the Savannah Zoo. He stared at the photo. "This can't be," he whispered. "Koa was born here, in this facility. I was there when her mother gave birth. She's never left." Sam's voice came back flat, cold. Exactly. But this photo wasn't taken here." She tapped the corner. The background showed thick vegetation, wild foliage, no fences, no structures, just jungle. The team pulled up Koa's full records, checked every log, every transfer, every internal ID, and nothing matched. Her DNA, however, did. A single strand of coarse hair retrieved from the bag matched Koa's profile perfectly. 100% identity. It was her, but the documents said otherwise. An older staff member broke the silence. "Someone forged her intake file, maybe smuggled her in, maybe sold her as captive-born when she wasn't." Jim leaned forward, voice low. Or maybe someone else was taken too." Word spread faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours, the media had the story. Headlines screamed across the internet. "Gorilla found guarding children's items. Secrets unfold in Savannah Zoo. Who was the girl in the photo?" Reporters camped outside the gates. Journalists dug through archive footage. Online forums lit up with theories. And then the messages began. Dozens, hundreds. Photos of missing children, families who never received closure. Most were hopeful guesses, but one letter changed everything. It arrived by email from a woman named Carolyn Moore. There was no greeting, no background story, just one line. "I know that backpack. It belonged to my daughter Emma. She disappeared in 2006, and you took her best friend." No threats, no demands, just a quiet, devastating sentence. And with it, rerun. Everything the zoo thought it knew about Koa began to unravel. Carolyn Moore's story stunned even the most hardened reporters. She spoke softly in the televised interview, her hands clenched, voice brittle with memory. "We lived in the Congo," she said. "My husband was a field biologist. He studied wild gorillas. Our daughter Emma was 4 when she bonded with a young orphan female. She called her Coco. They were inseparable, a child and a gorilla, laughing, touching hands, sharing fruit. Then came the fire. No warning, no time. The camp was destroyed. Her husband didn't survive. Emma vanished." "We searched for her," Carolyn said, tears welling, "but she was just gone." No remains, no trail, just silence. 3 months later, a young female gorilla arrived in a port city, crated, thin, terrified. The paperwork claimed she was born in captivity. They called her Koa. No one knew the truth, no one questioned it. But the gorilla remembered. 19 years later, in a quiet moment near the loading dock, Koa spotted an old backpack, worn, dusty, familiar. Inside, Emma's pajamas, her toy. Everything came back. She remembered, Dr. Sam Harris said, through time, through trauma, through everything. The next morning, Carolyn came to the zoo. She stepped up to the enclosure. Koa was already there. The gorilla walked toward the glass slowly. She lifted one hand, touched the barrier. Carolyn dropped to her knees. "I remember you," she whispered. "Coco." Koa closed her eyes and pressed her forehead gently to the glass. No sound, no motion, only memory, only love, and a country held its breath.